So I just argued with the Gojo Glazer, and surprisingly, he didn't really suck Gojo's dick all that much. I expected like a lot more deep throating, maybe some ball gargling. But to be honest, the guy, he was pretty chill, he was pretty cool. He brought up some points that like I actually did like to discuss about, and overall, he's not as toxic or just blatantly brain dead as most Gojo Glazers. So basically, the entire discussion was based on, is Gojo a weapon? Is Gojo characterized as a weapon and seen as nothing else? I make the argument that Gojo is not only seen as a weapon, he's not just this misunderstood being that no one seems to understand. He does have friends, he does have family that consider him to be a friend or a family member or just Gojo, someone that they can look up to and learn from. While this guy was making the argument that people don't really see Gojo in that light. So here's the full, raw 26-minute debate. Go grab some cereal, grab some food, or just put this on when you're about to fall asleep and listen to my sexy, soothing voice. But yeah, you
No.
said you wanted to talk to me about my Gojo video. What you have
Ah,
in
yes,
mind?
I did. So, wait, hold on. I actually made a comment. I don't know if you read it or not. I actually made a comment in your video. So, you're talking about how we misunderstand Gojo, right? Can you elaborate on what you think about Gojo as a character?
Um, I think Gojo's a cool character. I think that the idea that he's like the strongest in his verse and that leads him to like almost be alone in kind of like every sense. I think that's kind of cool. Um, I don't think he's necessarily written bad. I think he was written out of the story bad, but him as a character, no, I don't think he was like bad or anything like that. Um, yeah, that's pretty much like my general gist in Gojo. I don't think he's like terrible or
Uh,
anything like that.
I'm not saying like, I know you didn't mean him to be terrible because of your introduction on the video. I know you don't think him as terrible. What I wanted to talk to you about, right,
Hmm.
is his dehumanization theme in JJK. So you're saying, what you call it, all of his comrades, they don't seem like weapon. Yes, like to an extent, it's correct because they all have their own opinions about him, right? But in the manga, if you remember now, you see in the flashback, right, in chapter 250, no, it's actually 61 or something like that. When we see a flashback about what people discuss after Gojo dies, right?
Hmm.
Yuta says that he wants to take over Gojo or take the position he's in, right? They
I'm
all
sorry.
worry about Yuta
It's been such a long. Are you talking about like taking over his body or take over like the head of the Gojo clan?
taking over his place in battle,
Okay.
as what do you call it?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I know what you're talking
So they
about.
all say like, yeah. So they're like, "Oh, Yuta, you're too important for us. You cannot do that." And then Yuta screams angrily and yells, "What about Satoru Gojo? Is he not important?" And then the personification or like the characterization of Gojo among these students is that he's a monster. Yuta clearly points this out. He's a
To
monster.
be
And
clear,
then Yuta,
Yuja doesn't point out that he's a monster. He was basically saying that, oh, are we just gonna like let him be the monster, even bear like all the burden? That's not fair. And
yeah,
also, I don't think that's a
yeah,
fair characterization to say that's like, oh, that's what they think of Gojo 24/7. Like what Yuta was saying in that moment was like we're letting him do all this and putting like letting him take all the blame and take all the fault if he does fail, which he did, and we're just gonna like let him be the monster. We're gonna like let him like no, he's gonna have to deal with that. But like we're not doing anything. We're just his students. Like that's not fair to him. That's what he's saying. I don't think Yuta's saying like all the time he views Gojo as a monster and etc. etc.
what I'm saying is the role he seems to be taking is labeled as the monster, right? He's carrying all the burden of the Jujutsu Society right on his back. But yeah, and the higher ups also don't, what do you call it? Just sees him as a what do you call it? This monster.
I don't think the higher ups see him as a
Yeah,
monster. I think the higher ups just see him as like a nuisance and like he's just the perfect blend of new gen ideals and they can't really do anything about it, right? He's everything that like they can't control him. He's the head of the Gojo clan, so like there's not like they can
yep,
there's not like they can
yep,
tell
yep.
him to do like in Jujutsu Society just in general. Um, wow, that was a really easy boss
Yeah,
fight. But yeah.
yeah, because if they actually abide to him, right, they'll do what you call it. all the cleaning up of the fucking curses and all the things
Hmm.
happening in the Jujutsu Society, right?
Yeah.
And then what do you call it? We also have this specific question from Ghetto. You know what I'm talking about, right? Are you the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo, or you're Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest? I'm assuming you know what this means, right?
I think it's up for interpretation. I don't think there's like a flat out meaning of what it means, but yeah, I think I go by the general consensus of what it means.
Yeah. What is your general consensus of what it
I
means?
think the general consensus is Geto is asking Gojo, like, do you think you are in this position because like you have these powers, you have these abilities, or you were just like, is it basically destiny, or did you work your way up to this? Is essentially what Geto was asking.
Okay, so what I interpreted it as, right, is he's asking if he's what do you call it? This person known as Satoru Gojo is because he's the strongest, or is there someone that is beyond just strength? Is there a person that can be identified as Satoru Gojo? If you what do you call it? To support my case, right? In that what do you call it? That panel you highlighted right in your video about the others' opinions of Gojo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell me if one of them actually represents Satoru Gojo and not the strongest persona?
Yeah. Nanami for one, Nobara for another. Like in that very same panel, like we see everything like they think about him, right? So like Nanami specifically says, "Oh,
I'm
I
saying,
think he's like flippant and egotistical, blah 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 blah." They add on, yeah, he's the strongest, but the strongest doesn't make him like this like thing seen as like he's not seen as a nuclear weapon. Is my point, right? Just because they call him the strongest, they
he's
don't.
not a nuclear weapon. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
not a nuclear weapon.
but I'm
That's
saying
for
I'm
sure.
saying they're not. He's not like a weapon at all in this extent. Like, sure, they call him the strongest, but I don't think that's like in a very. It's not in a, at least in that specific panel. It's not in a negative connotation. At least to be fuck. It's not a negative connotation like to be taken to that
There's
level.
nothing to be negative about, right?
Hmm.
I don't think the strongest itself is a negative title, but the ir- insurmountable responsibilities and burdens that come with taking the title of the strongest itself, right, is what major factor of Gojo. And what do you call it? What I asked you is, do you think any of them represent Satoru Gojo, the Gojo we see in hidden inventory, and not the strongest that we see from season 1 to season 2?
Um, I mean, yeah, Yuji, Nanami. I think all these people like see Gojo for Gojo and not just the strongest. That's an aspect of his character, yeah, but they don't only see him as that. I think
Do you remember that one quote Satoru Gojo said in chapter 226? I mean 236 after he died. He says he felt isolated his entire life and that you could never admire a bloom. You can always admire a blooming flower, but you can never ask it to understand you. Essentially, these blooming flowers are his students and mentors, right? They are these, not mentors, his comrades, these blooming flowers.
I take that
He,
as everything. I'm gonna let you continue what you're saying, but if I take that
yeah,
as he means like everybody in the world can never understand him, because like how the fuck could they, right? Like when you literally can't be touched and like you defy like all like human and sorcerer comprehension, then like, yeah, like you're literally just a different beast. I don't think that mean. I think that's what he means like in that sense, because like even later on in that very same chapter, we see him talk about like I think the closest person to ever understanding this like was Sakuna. Like I hope that he understands that like this is like how I felt as well. Um
yes,
yeah. So like I
yes.
don't yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, you're right. Sukuna was like the closest person to understand Gojo because he understand the core or not core, like the fatal flaw of the person that is Satoru Gojo. He, or like if you remember in the Kashima fight, right, after it ended, he says it's Kashimo and Gojo's irony that they what do you call it, they were striving to be comprehended while trying to become incomprehensible beings, which are just the strongest. Is there irony?
Is that ironic? Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pointed out by Sukuna that it's just greed, Gojo's greed that he dreamt or like hoped to be understood after taking on this the strongest, which is just an incomprehensible position, right? Yeah, so it makes sense of Gojo's blooming flower quote. Nobody understood him, really.
Yeah, I don't. But I'm saying I don't see this how this points that he's a monster. Sure, does Gojo feel like he was alone because like he was at the top of like he was like at the pinnacle. I mean, yeah, but like even like I know this is the same anime or manga, but like, we even see this with Baki. Like your Yujiro feels alone too. That's primarily the reason why he had Jack. And I don't even know if you watched this show, but primarily like
I know,
that.
I know. I watched
Oh,
Baki, bro.
okay, but yeah, that's the reason why Yujiro had Jack and Baki, so like he could like hopefully have somebody that he can like call like his own, his equal, or at least so he won't be like truly alone. Um, I feel like it's kind of the same thing
Yeah,
with Gojo. It's like, yeah, sure, like I agree that he was alone, but the mischaracterization that like people only see him or even like see him remotely as like just this like monster, like see him as something like a weapon or something like that. I don't think that's the case for any single character in the series.
yeah, not like necessarily a weapon, but yeah, the role which Gojo seems to be taking is characterized as a monster by Yuta, which it stands fair. He's carrying all the responsibilities. I think when arguing about Gojo's character, right, it's important because of Gary's question and Gojo's character itself. It's important to make this clear distinction between Satoru, Gojo, and the strongest that I've been obviously repeating for like 3, 4 times by now.
I don't think there's a distinction to be made. I think like that's just a.
There is a distinction.
I don't think
There is
that's a
a distinction,
distinction.
really.
I think, for example, I would say like this is kind of like the same as like having like a racial identity versus like being like who you are like as a person. Sure, race isn't like the only like you're not. Oh, well, I don't know what race you are, but like I'm not only a black man, but like that goes into like who I am. Sure, it's the same thing with Gojo. Gojo's not only the strongest. He doesn't only have a limitless and like infinity, but that goes into like who he is fundamentally as a character.
Exactly. That's what also
Yeah,
I'm
but I'm not.
saying.
But no, you're saying to separate them, and I'm saying there's no need to separate them when.
Separation as in who Gojo, like who the person, like what makes Satoru Gojo and what makes the strongest. I'm saying they're like two different things because it's supported by that one question. Because if the strongest, right, he's carrying all these responsibilities. He's what you call it. Oh, what was that again? Yeah, according to Anonymous, for some reason, this view on Satoru Gojo, he never cared about keeping the sorcery or next generation going. He was only in for the kick of it, which is completely like, mischaracterizing Gojo, considering we know that Gojo states to Shoko that he wants to raise this generation of powerful allies so that he never wants to be alone again. You see where I'm coming from? This, the strongest view on Gojo, completely what you call it separates him because Satoru Gojo wants to raise this new generation. He wants them. He wants to train
Wait,
them to be
okay, wait, stop,
powerful
stop.
allies.
Okay, yeah, exactly. No, no, not just a powerful ally. What specifically does Gojo want his students to do? Like, what's the goal that is like? Does he have like planned for them? Or I'm sorry, what's the goal post does he want them to reach? He tells
He
Yuji
wants
this
them.
all the time.
Yeah, he wants them to what you call it overthrow the Jujutsu society. Really?
No, 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 no.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
and no, no. What he
He
wants them
says he
to,
wants to
what
change.
he wants them to
Yeah.
do is to like be stronger than or as strong as him. He says this to Yuji and Megami multiple times. So even in that
Yeah. They
definition,
want him to
no,
surpass. They want the.
I know
He wants him to.
Gojo wants them to suppress him. So it's very hard to try to separate that definition of like saying, oh, Gojo's not really he shouldn't be considered the strongest because it like has nothing to do with him. But like in that very same definition that you're using, he claims he wants people to be stronger than him. So it's like, to an extent, yes, this is who Gojo is because like even like in his like core beliefs, like what he wants to do like with the children, he still has like strength in his head.
Strength in his head because what you call it in Jujutsu Kaisen, this strength defines everything for sorcerers, right? You have to be strong enough
No, but I'm
because what you call it, this entire sorcery or sorcerers are completely unknown in Japan, except to the government, obviously. So yeah, it depends on strength. It's not like you can just go, get a good job and get good money so you can take over my world. It's not like that, right? It's all about strength, about sorcerers.
um but I'm saying, okay, I'm saying like in that very definition, you said that like, oh, strength doesn't define Gojo. Gojo literally defined him by he literally defined himself by strength by making him a goalpost for his students to
That's
achieve to.
that's the fatal flaw in Satoru Gojo, man. That's what Geto pointed out. That's what I've
I
been
don't, I,
telling to
but
you.
no, I'm saying I don't think Ghetto pointed that out. I just think we fundamentally interpret that scene
Oh,
like entirely differently.
y-
I don't think that's what
yeah,
Ghetto was saying.
yeah. I'm saying I'm giving you my interpretation, or I want you to look at my side of things, and I'm giving you what you call it more reasoning as to why I think like this. And yeah, you know what? Also, one of the basis of my interpretation, right, is Gojo goes up to Ghetto and calls whatever he's doing impossible and the ridiculous tasks. Ghetto asks Gojo, but if you're in my position, you could easily do it, right? So why are you dissuading me? Gojo as the strongest can do or what do you call it, do anything in the world really, but he's actively persuading others to not do something over morality. That means behind just made of strength, there is a person, Satoru Gojo, who's made of morals, dreams, and everything. And I think in the epilogue, or not the epilogue, the final closing chapter of JJK, we see in flashback with Yuji, Satoru Gojo literally says he has dreams and loves, but he abandoned all of
Wait,
that. Really,
okay,
he abandoned his.
what do you think that video was about? Are you saying that do you think that I think Gojo just has no character and like he just doesn't have like
I
these
never
dreams?
said that. The what do you call it? When we started talking, I literally said, "I know you don't think Satoru Gojo doesn't have character. I know you think Satoru
No,
Gojo
but
is a
I'm
good
saying like
character." I,
you're bringing up like these points that
yeah, it's
like
to
on
make it. No, it's to make a clear. Yes, it's to make a clear distinction between the view of the strongest and the actual person, Satoru Gojo, behind it. So we can talk about this whole taking on the monster role that is stated to be from Utah, obviously.
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, if you can see that distinction, really, it makes a lot of sense. I'm not saying he's like fully weaponized, but dehumanization, as you know, is a theme where a person, what you call it, is wait, what is dehumanization again? Hold on, let me get the exact definition for you.
I
Or
would
you do you have your own definition? If you
I
want to
would
tell me, you can tell
yeah, I
me.
would say dehumanization is when you take an aspect of a like an obvious like human portrayed character or a human and you try to completely strip away all sense of humanity and goals or aspirations to make them seem like a monster or at least demonize them.
Yeah,
You take away
yeah, yeah,
human traits to make them seem
yeah.
less human.
Yeah, your definition fits perfectly with exactly what I said. Gojo, what you call it, Gojo was stripped away all of his dreams, his love, everything to carry this one burden of the strongest, which is to carry the what you call it, entire Jiu-Jitsu society on his back. He's raising a new generation. He basically rid himself of his actual Satoru Gojo qualities and that hopeful bastard. He basically, yeah, and even Sukuna supposed to say me as I said previously about how it's just his irony that he became an incomprehensible being and wants to be comprehended. So yeah, I think my
I
case stands.
No, I don't think Gojo like gave away his like personality as Satoru Gojo. I think that's there. It's like
Oh
it's still
wait,
very much.
yeah, Gig.
It's still very
Hold
much.
on, hold on.
It's still very much evident by a mushroom. It's still very much evident by like how you see like Gojo like interacts with everyone. He pretty much still acts like how he was like when before and after Amanai died. I mean, sure there was like a brief moment like after Amanai died where he was like, should I fucking like blast these guys with a hollow purple um and even to the extent even Ghetto's like, nah, it just wouldn't be worth it. Like, there's no real like point to it. And then after that, Gojo pretty much just goes back to like being characterized how he was after I'm sorry, before Amina died. Um, to this idea that like he gave up dreams and aspirations, I wouldn't say he gave them up. I feel like that's like a mischaracter. No, I'm not gonna say mischaracterization. I feel like that's it's a very broad understanding of how I say Gojo. I feel like Gojo
Ah,
just
yeah.
essentially grew up, right? I don't even want to say grew up because like I mean, he changed right after Amina. He literally went to Megami, and I'm pretty sure he didn't have like in his head that he needs to like change everything like when he was a teenager. But like he still went to
I get
Megami.
what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I feel like the aspects of Satoru Gojo still there. I don't think anyone in the series saw him only as like specifically something. I don't even think Gojo only saw himself as the strongest. Sure, like I said, I'm not saying this is not a driving force because I mean, like obviously it's a driving force to like why Gojo does what he does and how he acts the way he acts, but
Yeah.
it's not his locked in key thing.
Yeah. About the personality thing, right? I don't know if you know, but in an interview, right, Gege was asked what Gojo lacks as a person, and the man just responded, "A personality, maybe." Do
I
you
mean,
believe?
yeah, but I feel like that was just mainly for jokes. So you know, the running gag is Gege like actually like hates Gojo. So I don't think that was like a
I mean,
blanket statement to be like taken like seriously.
if you look at the series, right, the man just what you call it does not have this one fixed personality. Right, he acts differently. What do you call it? Around Yuji, he acts differently. Around Megumi, he acts differently. Around Nanami, he acts
I
differently.
don't think he
With
acts I
Kyra.
don't think he acts differently around any of these characters. He acts the
Okay,
exact.
why is that?
Does he have different roles in these people's lives? Yeah, I mean, one
Yeah,
he raised Megami, so obviously he's going to treat Megami different than he treats Yuji and Nobara. He met Yuji first, and he probably sees a lot in Yuji with himself and also in Yuta, because like the execution thing and like you know the higher ups not liking him. So yeah, he probably treats Yuji differently than Nobara. And even like at the end of the series, like when they all got their letters and things like that, and even Nobara was like, "What? I barely knew the guy. Like I don't really like know I got a letter." Um, so yeah, like that's with anybody though. You treat everybody differently. You probably have different personalities and like different traits that you just choose to display depending on like who you're around, who you're talking to. Like I'm not sure if you have a girlfriend or like boyfriend. I don't know what you're
nah,
into.
nah,
But
nah,
yeah.
nah.
I'm saying like I don't know if you have like significant other or family, but like you're gonna treat your mom very differently like than you would treat your no significant other or like your best friend.
Yeah, that's true. That's correctly true. But wait, oh, hold on.
Holding.
Okay, I'm back. So yeah, what I'm trying to say, right, is, yeah, sure, by your logic, it makes sense. Yeah, he will
Mm-hmm.
differently act around everyone, but yeah, I don't really know what Gege meant by that.
Like
It's
I said,
definitely
I
not
don't
a
think it
joke.
I don't think like it really meant anything. I just like I said, I just think the meme was like Gege doesn't like Gojo, so he just I'm sorry, not he. They just said that. And I was like, no, fuck it, let's just have some fun with this.
Like, if you really just wanted to joke around, right, why so specifically personality? He could just say like he acts a girlfriend or some shit like that, right?
I don't
Why
know.
really a personality?
I don't know.
I don't get it. I'm gonna explore that later on, but let's not get too deep into that. Let's talk about Satoru Gojo's identity crisis. You are aware of this?
Do you tell me what you think his identity crisis is?
Uh,
I know he
in
has themes of
simple,
an identity crisis, but I don't think he actually suffers from one.
oh, you do? We are talking about the theme. I'm not saying he suffers from it. We are talking about the theme of
Okay.
identity
Well
crisis.
then, yeah, I agree that he has a theme of identity crisis.
Yeah. Holy shit! I think we're done with this. I mean, if you, we had a good discussion, I guess.
Oh damn, that's it.
The only reason I even reached out, right, is because I saw one of your comments saying, "Oh no, you're just blatantly wrong," and you said like, "Oh, let's discuss this on live." I think
Yeah,
live,
yeah.
yeah. And I went to the live, right, which was like, I don't know, you're playing something and
Mario,
talking
yeah.
about Naruto versus someone.
Yeah, I know what live
Gojo?
you're talking about. Yeah, it was Naruto versus
Oh,
Gojo. That
yeah,
was the
yeah, yeah.
video we were watching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think I saw somewhere like you had a Discord and shit. So I was
Hmm.
like, all right, if it's willing to discuss, I'm down. Well, I'll go take what's going on and take a look.
Yeah, I'm
So yeah,
always willing to discuss. It's just like even like with your comment, the thing is like between videos, live streams,
way too
and
long.
wait, what'd you say?
My comment is way too long. People in the replies are just saying, "Holy yeah."
No. I read long comments. It's just like I was saying. The thing is, like, I get video comments from like shorts, live streams, and videos. I get like at least 1,000 comments a day. So I genuinely didn't see yours. And also
Yeah, comment.
sometimes I go in the comment
Yeah,
section. I just fucking troll people, and I'll just be an asshole for no reason because it's just fun.
everyone's like that, bro. They
Yeah.
are not alone. Yeah, I posted this long ass comment which managed to get around 32 likes, which is like more than most of the comments. Yeah, it's like the second most liked comment. So I was
Mhm.
just wondering how the fuck you did not see it. So I was like,
No.
oh, let's just go to the guy's Discord server and just ask him for a discussion head on. He might just not see this comment in general. So I
Yeah.
just came here,
But yeah, like I
bro.
think generally like we agree. I just think we like
Yeah,
disagree like maybe like on some of the aspects of like what what was interpreted versus what was said.
I mean, yeah, we can both make cases. Yeah, that's just my interpretation of it. And bro, I'm not even joking with you. This J guy is so cringe, bro.
Jay, who's that?
Check in the chat, bro. He's corny as fuck.
Oh well, yeah. I got like I said, I don't. I just try not my hardest not to pay attention to just fuck chats.
He's talking about his own domain or some shit, bro. This nigga is so cringe. I was there yesterday. I was just feeling awkward, so I did not pay much attention to the server. So yeah, you're like the only reason I came here. So yeah,
Oh,
maybe I'm just going now. See ya.
see you, man. What a great guy. He's not as like entirely fucking brained as I thought he was gonna be. But I mean, like I can see where his interpretation is coming from. I personally think like they're wrong, just based on statements we have from characters. And he was like trying to interpret like what Gege was saying like in a fun interview that's not like really meant for like anything serious. Like using that like as a prime example, which I don't really agree with, but I mean, no, it happens. I guess I'm not gonna sit here and shit on him for it. But I respect him for coming out and talking to me. Actually, I wish more people do that because I know I say like a lot of takes people just don't agree with. So yeah, what a great guy. Oh no.